It's the 50th and final QPR preview show of the season, and it may be the last show, but it's almost certainly the biggest because we head to Sunderland on the final day without Marti Cifuentes in the QPR dugout, as he's now on gardening leave. We'll be previewing the trip to Sunderland briefly later, and it will be briefly because it's probably less of a preview show this week, admittedly, because of course the focus is going to be on Marti Cifuentes and the news. As usual in the QPR circus, there's multiple layers to it. But firstly, Dave, what's just your initial reaction to the news from the last 24 hours or so?
I mean, I thought for a while, and I've said in here before, that he'd go at the end of the season. I didn't quite think it was going to pan out like this. It's been a mad couple of days, really, just from the start last week when you'd assume Cifuentes' side was leaking about their issues with why they're not happy, and then the West Brom stuff come out, and then the whole Garden League thing just seems insane, especially when now it turns out West Brom might not actually want him. Um, it, it's just such a crazy situation. You just think maybe the best thing for the club to have done would have been just to hold their nerve a bit and wait, get through the weekend. I know it would have been difficult with Cifuentes in charge at the weekend, but you know, maybe just see it through and see what happens. They're now in such a position where it's a mess. If no one comes in for Cifuentes, they're going to have to pay him off, and obviously we won't get any compensation then. So yeah, it's just been a mad few days. Yeah, and overall, it's just I think it's quite sad it's ended like this. I think we've all enjoyed Cifuentes as manager. We've had a good spell under him. It's not been brilliant all the time by any stretch, but it's just a shame how it's going to end.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my initial reaction is I'm quite sad about it, both in terms of Marty going and in terms of just how QPR come across. I mean, I'm up in the northwest and I've had watched Liverpool fans all week lording it about, and yet QPR can't even hang on to like a half decent manager. The club is just so poorly run in my view, and it's got to the point where it's embarrassing. So, and I've said it so many times on here over the last few years, Mike, or not last few years since Marty took over, that the cause for optimism for QPR to me was Marty Cifuentes being in charge. He's clearly a good manager. Like you just said, yes, he's not perfect. No manager is, but the fact that other clubs are sniffing around him, that speaks volumes. And like I say, it makes me sad because it just illustrates that QPR are a mess. We said last week that the owners needed to step up, sort it out, and do what was necessary to keep the best coach we've had for a few years. But instead, it's been all dirty laundry and hearsay, who's leaking this, who's done that. So instead of taking proactive action, as usual, QPR just look ridiculous to everybody else, don't they? And the gardening leave bit has been even a curveball, I think, even to most of us. So let's try and go through it bit by bit. Did you get the vibe on Saturday from Marty walking around at the Burnley game that it was his farewell at Loftus Road?
Absolutely, yeah. He did like a lap of honour before the game, which was weird, but obviously now it kind of makes a bit more sense. Um, I thought it was quite a sad lap of honour at the end because obviously we've been absolutely battered and been awful on the day. Seeing Cifuentes looked really down and he looked like he was saying goodbye. Some of the players as well were. So, I mean, like I've said before, I thought he would go at the end of the season. I didn't know how it would happen, but I think it was, there's obviously been issues behind the scenes and this would come about. But the signs were there that something was coming. Don't think there was any signs that it was going to escalate as quickly as it has.
Yeah, definitely not. And the reason I ask is because obviously his quote we've seen all week, it's been on BBC, everything. It's as long as I'm wanted, I'm very happy. So do you think the club just didn't want him anymore, or why were they not willing to make concessions to keep him at QPR if he wanted to be here? He's saying as long as I'm wanted, I'm happy. So what's going on there?
I think that's a clever quote from Cifuentes because he's pledging his future to the club. Of course, if people want me, I'll stay. I'm always going to be here. But he knew that the club didn't want him. He's not stupid. He knew this was coming to it. Hasn't come to a shock to him, I don't think. So I think he was quite smart with what he said then. And, if there had been a change around, it, if, we said last week, maybe the owners should step in and try and sort this out. That could have been a scenario that happened after the weekend. And then, what he said would have been true. But yeah, I think he played it a little bit there. I think he knew what he was doing saying that.
Yeah, I'm just playing devil's advocate, asking the question. I
Mm.
personally hope that when it got to Sunday and there was the news of his representatives having talked with other clubs, maybe it was him sending a message to the owners and Nourry that they will either play ball with what he wants or he's going to go. But no, they'd rather put him on garden leave and let him leave. It's just bonkers to me. And it's obviously going to split opinion, and that's fair enough. We can only express our own views. Seen an awful lot of posts, though, calling him a snake and like Michael Beale. Is that a view you share?
No, I mean, I don't think it's anything like. Mick Bill. And Mick Bill was only here for about 3 months, wasn't he? And he was trying to get a job from minute one. Cifuentes has been here 18 months. Look, I don't think he's covered himself in glory here with what he's done. He is still, he was still QPR manager. He is still a QPR manager, I think. Um, so to be talking to other clubs isn't a great look. I get why he's doing it, but it's not great. And there's more been coming out about he's done this before potentially. So it's not great. But for me, as a club, what QPR are trying to be and how we sell the club to people is that we're a development club, and that come to QPR, we will develop you, we'll make you better as a manager or a player, and then you can go and play for someone good. Like Eze did. He can go and play for a better team, go and play in the Premier League or do something like that. When we bring players in, their end game, there isn't come to QPR and win something, win promotion. You can achieve all your dreams there. It's not. We'll help you achieve them elsewhere. So that's probably how we sold it to Cifuentes when he come in. So it shouldn't be a shock that 18 months in, he's done quite well. He's now looking elsewhere. That's the model of the club. Make some money on him and then bring the next one in and then do the same and repeat and repeat. So I don't overly blame. I don't blame Cifuentes for this, but like I said, it's not a great look, and I can see why he's getting criticism because we're QPR fans. We're not Marti Cifuentes fans. Ultimately, we want the best for the club, and it hurts when you've had someone who's so popular and you've got a good rapport with has said, actually, I'd rather be somewhere else.
Yeah, you're right. Everything you're saying is right. I mean, I genuinely think that Marti Cifuentes though was truthful when he said he appreciated the QPR fans. People are going to
Yeah.
disagree with me saying that, but I thought he was sincere when he spoke about his feelings for QPR and especially the fans. But what does it then say about QPR? I mean, the future of QPR. What's he seeing behind closed doors? What's he being told? That he wanted to leave a job where he was basically loved by the vast majority of the fan base. And we go back again to his statements last summer. We've touched on them again many times. Watch the season preview back. We pointed it out. He was clearly at odds with the signings and decisions. And on top of that, the managers are kind of seeing a ceiling at QPR, aren't they? And then they realise they're going to have to leave at some point. Hurts us as the fans, but it took like Marti Cifuentes 19 months, took Michael Beale, like you said, 3 months. Whether you see him as a snake or not, him wanting to leave is what's the alarming point on it. And let's be honest here, I think if we've all applied for other jobs and we've been in a job for a multitude of reasons, you want more money, the position's untenable, people you're working with you can't stand. And I think in Marti Cifuentes' case, it's probably a lot of those factors that have come into play. But is for us as fans, the thing that is irking me is the fact that he can't see a chance to progress here, can he, Dave? And that's just going to happen to the manager after manager. The club is in a bad position.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't an out of the blue thing. He's the first one to ever come to QPR, and the picture he's been told about isn't what he was expecting. We just mentioned Bill. Now, I'm not a fan of Mick Bill, but he, within a month, I think he done like a fans forum thing, and he said, "Oh, what they told me in the summer isn't like that at all. We need to sell players. It's a mess behind the scenes," and it was kind of ignored because no one liked Mick Bill by the end. But Gareth Ainsworth, I think when he was here, was it Richard Dobson, his assistant, has come out in the last few months and said it wasn't the job we were sold. It was completely different when we got in. It was a different job to what we were told. There's alarm bells there. This keeps happening. They're getting it. They're getting these people in the building, and something's wrong behind the scenes. What, you know? Why do they want to leave so quickly? Why do they want to go? There's a reason. They're not all just more money going to move up. I imagine they're pretty well paid at QPR. Something is not right, and you can go back years at QPR. We're not getting better. We're getting worse each time. Um, Something's wrong behind the scenes, and it needs to be addressed. I don't think as a fan base we can just say, right, Cifuentes is the bad guy, boo him, next guy come in, everything's going to be all right. We need to kind of learn and understand what's going on here and make fundamental changes to the club.
Yeah, well, even when they tried that, don't forget they did the audit and the guy appointed himself as the CEO.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what's just alarming to me is that like the teams he's been linked with, West Brom, Norwich, they're only a few points and a few places above us. Remember, so but he doesn't even feel like he can get QPR to that little next step up. And to me, it's going to really hurt watching him manage against us next season if that's where he ends up. Then, of course, the next issue we've got to get to is the fact that West Brom, the media in the Midlands especially, also seem to suggest that he's not even on the West Brom shortlist. So where does that leave us?
In a mess. Yeah, I mean, when that come out Sunday, I did think that didn't fit for me. Cifuentes going to West Brom, you know, they're losing a bit. They're in a bit of financial strife. They're not doing that great. I think they're on a bit of a downward curve, and I just didn't think Cifuentes was going to go there. I mean, let's be honest. If you watched our last two home games, you're not thinking as I'm going to hire that manager. We were pretty terrible the last few games. So I don't. I mean, I don't know how this plays out. The Norwich job looks like it's going to Jack Wilshere. I'm not sure he's at a level yet to be going to a Southampton or a Leicester. I mean, he could do a good job there, but I don't think he'd get either of them jobs. Swansea have hired a manager today. I'm not sure where he ends up. I think this is going to end up with us having to pay him off. I don't see where he's going to go.
Yeah, for me, QPR have shock horror, being incredibly stupid or rash, whatever word you want to use, because it's the time of year where clubs don't need to rush an appointment of a manager. So now anybody who is interested just needs to sit and wait. Eventually, we'd have to sack him, like you say, or much lower compensation to get rid of him. But we should have just let Xavi Khan take the Sunderland match, but put out a statement. I put this on our forum. We should have put out a statement saying Marti Cifuentes, he's had a family issue, whatever. A bit like when they said Jimmy Dunn was injured for the match against Millwall. Everyone knows he's not, but at least it puts something out there, and then it can be dealt with behind closed doors, and the situation can then play out over the next few weeks. Now we've backed ourselves into a corner, and you can almost see a scenario where QPR are actually paying two managers at once. Is that we're just, like I say, we are just a joke of a club. You only have to talk to fans of other clubs, and you talk about QPR now, and we just look ridiculous. Maybe there's a chance they can reconcile. I must be like a 1% chance, but I think now a lot of the fan base are going to be against him. So just a mess. I don't know how QPR still managed to amaze us with the situations we end up in. It's crazy. We have to mention Christian Nourry, of course. I don't even know where to start with him. I guess the question is just, what is he doing?
Yeah, it's a bizarre situation, isn't it? I mean, he basically talked himself into a job when he done the audit, and I thought initially when he come in, he done pretty well. They had quite a good first transfer window, didn't they? But when they got rid of Dizelle and brought some players in, and they stayed up. And I like some of the stuff he's done with the academy and the development squad. They're playing the semi-final tonight. And they're obviously going for it. They've got quite a strong team now, so hopefully they win that. But I just think too many mistakes have been made. I don't like the lack of communication from him. They've hid Cifuentes away all season, but it's obvious there's a problem. The recruitment's, let's be honest, it's not been great. And the way they do recruitment, and to be fair, it was the same under Les Ferdinand. You don't know who's signing the players, so they kind of keep it all quiet. So when you sign someone like Eze, they're all putting their hand up, saying, "Oh, that was me. I spotted him. I spotted him." But there's not many people coming forward for Taylor Richards at the minute saying, "No, I said that was a good idea." And it's the same now. You don't really know. The ones that are going to be good, your Liam Morrisons, your Varans, they all want to get involved in that. Less so some of the other ones. So I mean, where I stand with it with Nourry, to be honest, is it comes back down to the owners. I think Nouri's a good talker. He talked his way into this job. Whether he's got he obviously hasn't got the experience for it. He's going to have to learn on the job. But this isn't the first time this has happened at QPR. If you go back through the ownership, back to the start, you had Kia Jarabchik come in. You won't get any good players to stay in the Premier League unless you sack Neil Warnock. So they went, "Oh yeah, we'll do what you say." They listened to Mark Hughes. Then they had Harry Redknapp. "Oh yeah, he sounds good, but let him do what he wants." I love Les Ferdinand, but Les Ferdinand talks himself joined to a job there because he used to play for us. They let him do what he wanted. No way in Holloway gets a job at QPR without the gift of the gab. You could go on Steve McLaren, Mick Beale, and now Nourry. They just seem to fall for this all the time. He's got good talk. He's got a good PowerPoint. Give him the keys to the castle. There's no due diligence done about, is this person actually the right fit for QPR? Are they actually going to improve us? And for me, it's all about inflated egos at the minute at the club. This whole thing is no one wants to be seen as being wrong, and that's why he's gone off on gardening leave, because they don't want him to go and go to another job, and people to say, "Oh, it's all the club's fault." That's why he's left. They've manipulated a situation, I think, at the minute where the majority of fans, I think, will blame Cifuentes. I just don't buy it. I'm not overly happy with Nourry. I mean, he's not going to go, and the club are not going to get rid of the manager and the CEO in the same week. Even QPR wouldn't do that. So he's here for the foreseeable future, and look, I hope he can sort it out at some point in the future.
Yeah, my always perspective on it is that the owners at QPR are just always scared to make the really big decisions on things, and like But to me, Ruben, he should be, say he walked into the club today, surely they'd be seeing the destruction and saying, what the hell is going on here? Because they entrust people to do a job for the benefit of QPR. But I fail to see how Christian Noy puts QPR first. Like you say, it's all about his ego. Um, I don't see how it benefits QPR the way he's handled the situation. And isn't his job, though, to avoid this kind of mess?
Yeah, that's exactly what he's supposed to be there for. You want some continuity, and if it does get to the point when your manager moves on to another club, fine. We take the money, we go and get another one. That's okay. Same as if someone come in for Ilias Chair this summer and we sell him. Fine. Thanks for your service. Get the next one in. That's all right. That's what we're supposed to be. I don't know why it's become such a war, and I don't know. Like I said, the communication for me was a massive red flag, and it has been all season with him.
Yeah, definitely. It's been just a wall of secrecy all along, hasn't it? And for me, another point of his job should be to obviously have QPR in the best light possible. But the image of QPR is in the drain. And the knock-on effect of all this could be huge. Which players are going to want to sign? Which players are going to want to stay? Jimmy Dunn, I mean, if we had a chance of keeping him, he's just going to be looking at this week thinking, no chance. Steve Cook, there was a rumours of a new deal for him, but he's going to be thinking, oh, gee, do you want to stay here? And this is the point now. We just look like an incompetent club. That is what hurts. And we said it right after we came off recording last week's show, actually. But if Marty's gone and we start next season badly, how sharp are the knives going to be that are coming out?
Well, yeah, very sharp. I think that it's gonna this is a massive gamble from the club. You know, you look at our squad. I saw a podcast with Kevin Gallen and Dave McIntyre, and they were saying it's one of the worst squads we've ever had. I don't think it's that bad, the squad, but it's not a good squad. It lacks pace, athleticism. It's not good. You're going to lose a lot of the best players, some of the better players in the squad. Dunn, Cook, potentially going Cole back. You're going to need to replace all them, bring in a new manager, and hit the ground running in a league that looks stronger on paper with the teams coming up next year. Good luck with that. We haven't started the last few seasons well. Look, I hope we get to August and we win the first three games, and we're sitting here going, what were we worried about? What a couple of idiots worried about that. But I'm concerned about next season, and I think we all should be.
Yeah, I am massively. If you've got a good thing to me, like Marti Cifuentes, just surely you do more to make it work. I've seen some fans saying he didn't do an amazing job, but to me, he dragged the club out of the gutter. People have short memories. You just want to go look where we were October 2023. And he said, hasn't he, in the last few weeks, my third season is always successful. And now it doesn't like me when I get to find that out. Sticking my neck on the line, I think we're going to watch Marty go on to great things, and QPR are going to go nowhere, probably back into the gutter. I'm convinced we're going to be sitting here thinking, why didn't we just give Marty Cifuentes what he wanted? That's what's winding me up. It's because it's avoidable as well to me. It really is. And
Yeah.
I hope I'm wrong. I hope we're both wrong in what we're saying, but it just doesn't feel like it's going to go well. You imagine, can't you already? Marti Cifuentes, if he is against us, will beat us home and away on the way to promotion, and will be probably beat us in the match that sends us down to League One. So the club now feels divided on off the pitch, and it's just a shame. Let us know your comments, thoughts in the comments. Obviously, we can only express our views as fans. I'm sure there'll be a whole range of views out there. We'll come back to it in a few days. We've got our end of season review, which will be out on Monday. We'll give a few days for things to settle down, and George will be joining us for that as well. If we try and go on the pitch just for a few minutes, there's no light to be found at the end of the tunnel there either, because of course you lost the last home game 5-0 against Burnley. What was your take on that match, Dave?
Oh, blimey, that was a horrible afternoon, wasn't it? I don't think I've seen a side as good as that as Burnley were since Newcastle come to us and thumped us about 10 years ago. They were so much better than us. It was frightening. I mean, the first 90 seconds was all right. We did actually start all right. But after that, they were just so much quicker than us, so much stronger. They wanted it a lot more. They were hunting us in packs. They just didn't give us a second to breathe. I mean, we've said it a lot this season with the scorelines. 5-0 flattered us. We cleared a couple off the line. They eased off a bit, thankfully, in the end. The way they defended and in numbers compared to us was it was hard to watch. For me, the third goal summed it up. I don't really want to pick on individuals, really, but Dembele lost the ball. He doesn't make any attempt to run back. I mean, Kenneth Powell, I mean, blimey, I might as well have played left back. The resistance he put up against their winger, he gets left behind. And you don't see Dembele come on the screen to come over and cover and help until they've scored and they're off celebrating. And you think, come on, where's that attitude in the team? I mean, maybe they all knew this was coming and that had an effect, which is a possibility. I don't know, but just the difference in attitude between the two teams shows this is a winning mentality and this is not a winning mentality. And yeah, it was just a horrible afternoon, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, could QPR have been better? Of course, on every level, but I'm definitely in the camp of thinking, Jesus, Burnley were absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Undoubtedly, like you said, the best team from recent memory. It was like they were playing with extra few players on the pitch. That's how good they were. We had like Jack Colback running up and pressing, often our highest player up the pitch, but then they just went past him and we had no midfield. Obviously, if you press, you've got to be backed up, but there was just no cohesion. It was halfway house our tactics a little bit, and we were rightly torn apart. But Burnley have got nearly double the points we've got, and it was clear why, wasn't it? We talked last week about how did Burnley plug that gap to the Premier League, but it kind of showed how much there was a gap between us and the top of this division, didn't it?
Yeah, the gap is huge. And you think Burnley are probably going to struggle next season when they go up, and look how much better they were than us. I mean, to some degree, I think we underestimated them a little bit. I thought that might be a tight game, and they'd win 1-0 or something. But my God, they were not like that at all. I don't know why they haven't played like that all season. They were a phenomenal side, and yeah, the gap's only getting bigger in this division, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know we were all disappointed and embarrassed by the result, so I just dropped back like on the floor. We went toe to toe with Leeds and Sheffield United. But Burnley were just on another level. And you only have to look at Leeds, beating Bristol City 4-0. They had one shot, Bristol City, 25% possession, and they're fifth. They could go up with Leeds and Burnley, but they're even
Yeah.
miles off them. So recruitment for QPR is going to have to be off the charts to plug that gap. And ultimately, as we said before, Marti Cifuentes clearly wasn't seeing any evidence that QPR can plug that gap. Trying to find one slight positive is that we didn't actually go down in the table. We're still 15th. And if we can beat Sunderland, we could finish as high as 13th. And then maybe if we beat Sunderland, Burnley match especially can be forgotten. And maybe they'll give Xavi Khan the job. Let's quickly preview this match with Sunderland. Last two meetings between the sides have both ended 0-0, and it probably wouldn't surprise many if it was the same on Saturday. Pretty pointless match on paper, as dead a rubber as there's ever been. But for Sunderland, like technically they're there for the taking. They've strange position where they were 13 points behind Sheffield United, 9 ahead of the chasing pack. They've had nothing to play for weeks. So now 5 without a win, lost 4, scoring just 1 goal. Have they been right to take the foot off the gas, or should they have been looking to build momentum?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? They've been kind of trying to keep players fresh and not get any injuries leading up to it. It was, the results were never really going to matter. I mean, they'll see this as a chance to, get themselves back in form the way we're playing at the minute and with all that's going on. I think time will tell. You don't really know till they get into the playoffs if that's the right thing to do or not. Um, I imagine this is a game neither team really want. I think Sunderland just want to get on with the playoffs, and we just want to get this season over with as quickly as possible. So I'm not expecting a thriller in this one. I'm so pleased I've got tickets and I'm going up for the weekend. I can't wait for this one.
Yeah, for Sunderland, I think it's just been a huge risk taking their foot off the gas because the manager himself said he wasn't happy with the dynamic of his team last week against Oxford, and they've not really rested players either. You have Bellingham, Misidor, Rigg, O'Neill, and Roberts were all involved last week, and it's hard to change that mindset for me. Like you get a winning mentality, it's a nice habit, isn't it? And I think if they've switched off, now adds a hell of a lot of pressure onto their playoff matches. Should add as well, QPR haven't won at the Stadium of Light since 2015. That was a Premier League win. We've never actually won a championship match or a match in the second tier at the Stadium of Light, so it's not a happy hunting ground. We haven't even beaten them at Loftus Road since 2018. For QPR, it's Xavi Khan in charge with Kevin Betsy. It's going to be literally impossible to know how much they'll change on it.
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't have thought they'll change too much. They don't have much choice really with players missing and that. You know, I don't know how many changes they can really make to what the team was last week. I kind of get the idea of playing Ashby on the right to try and stop them doubling up on Jimmy Dunn, but it didn't work. By any stretch of the imagination. So maybe you could put Ashby back to left back, Dembele back on the right, and do it that way. Maybe start Chair on the left. But I don't think there'll be major changes with the players missing, really.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, last day of last season, he brought in Joe Walsh, didn't he? But I don't actually
Yeah,
think
that's
he's
a
maybe
possibility.
going to do that now, though, because it's kind of like Xavi's one match in charge. Will he make a change like that and then we lose? It looks like, why did you do it kind of thing. But it's very hard to call. I mean, Paul Smith's still suspended. Will he throw in Emerson Sutton? Unlikely, right? Because he's playing in the development squad on Wednesday night, and Ryan Coley's actually in that team as well. So you wonder whether he's even going to start. So definitely up in the air, but as you say, the match is definitely secondary to everything that's going on at QPR. And before our predictions, just wanted to say a huge thank you to everyone who's watched this season for commenting each week and liking the preview shows. Makes a huge difference, makes it worthwhile doing it for us. We have nothing without you guys watching, basically. So thank you for sharing your journey of following QPR with us, even if it is heartbreaking and largely painful, we have to say. Thank you to Dave for your time all the time, every week, through a lot of thick and not much thin. But it's just one prediction to go for you, Dave. How will the final day go?
Oh, I can't. After what's happened this week, you can't see us winning there, can you? Let's be honest. 0-0 sounds a likely scoreline, but I think Sunderland want to get themselves back in form, and I think they'll win probably 2-3-0, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, my main prediction is Christian Noy will not turn up in the away end like he did at Coventry on the last day of last
Yeah, no.
season. He only shows his face when he wants his ego massaging. But I think if he went in the away end now, he'd probably be lucky to make it out, wouldn't he? As for the match, I agree. Sunderland need to turn it back on. Our players' heads are probably a little bit scrambled, aren't they? So, yeah, I'm going for a 2 or 3-0 Sunderland win. As I mentioned, we're going to be back early next week with our season review and to catch up on anything that's happening with the management situation. We'll have our annual player ratings in two parts too. We'll have different videos as well through the summer. We've got some ones rating our favourite and worst kits and so on. So come back for all that and we'll have plenty to talk about because QPR, as we said, always something. I actually thought this was going to be a boring season. Remember, look what's happened. So there'll be plenty to keep you ticking over though until next time. Come on, you R's.